Tight.
And for our penultimate podcast from RightsCon 2025, we have for you Roger Dingledine. He's an American computer scientist known for having co-founded the Tor Project. Tell us about the Tor Project, because I know about it in my brain, but only vaguely.
Yeah, so we're a U.S. nonprofit. We write privacy software to help people around the world be safer on the internet. We started in the actual nonprofit started in 2006, but I started Tor back in 2001, 2002, and it started off as a civil liberties tool to help people not get tracked and traced by Google. And then we started getting mail from people in China and Iran saying, "This is great, I can get around this new censorship that my government is doing." And then we realized, wait a minute, it's a privacy tool, but you can block it. So then we figured out how to make it harder to block Tor and have gone back and forth. So now we've got users all around the world who use it for privacy or censorship resistance.
How many
or
users
safety.
do you have a week, a month, a day? How does it work?
Yeah, so it's hard to tell for sure because it's an anonymity
Yeah.
system. So we've been trying to work on privacy preserving ways of measuring.
Yeah.
And one of the papers recently showed about 8 million daily users.
Whoa.
That is a lot.
Great. That's a lot. And can I just say, I mean, now that we are in the presence of somebody who's very important. I mean, I don't want to build up the sort of...
I'm going to say a super geek.
The super geek. I'm happy with that. Are you happy with that?
Sure.
Yeah. But somebody who has really been in a very, him and his organization and network and project have been a very important part of protecting the privacy rights, the life rights. I mean, people lives have been saved because, you know, a lot of human rights defenders and activists and journalists and you name it use Tor in order to protect their identity and to protect their browsing habits and to protect themselves from some very malicious actors. So thank you very much. And I am one of those people myself.
And how hard has it become to protect anonymity online and, you know, preserve privacy?
There are certainly a lot of threats that keep changing. I mean, one of the fun parts about it from my perspective is going to interesting conferences like RightsCon over the years and meeting people who are in a really different life cultural situation than I am, whose lives have been changed from the software that we work on. So, for example, we went to Manila RightsCon long ago.
That was a long time ago.
And I met some really interesting local people, and each of them had a story of I was arrested in this situation. Can you tell me how like internet surveillance works so that I can understand what happened so that we can do our job better going forward?
Yeah. I know that you go under the pseudonym Armor. I mean, is that part of your own personal protection online?
No, that's just how the internet hacker world works.
Okay.
People have a variety of names depending on contexts.
Armor. And why Armor? Is that like the shield
You
of
can't
steel?
divulge.
I will tell you the story when we are not being recorded.
Okay. Beautiful.
So, you know, one of the things that has been really interesting over these last 10 years, say, since RightsCon Manila, is the centralization of power and this concentration of ownership with certain technology companies and platforms and providers. Tell us a little bit about that, because I know that you're concerned about this decentralization. So
yeah, so the Tor network is a group of volunteer relay operators around the world. We've got 9,000 relay operators who are who handle the traffic for all the Tor users. And the way that it works is you build a path through 3 different relays. So no single relay knows both where you are and what you're doing on the internet. And that decentralization is really important. It's like compare it to a VPN provider where it's privacy by promise. I see who you are. I see what you're doing. I promise I won't tell anybody.
Yeah, that's a lot of trust.
I promise I'm not looking. I promise I'm not logging.
Yeah.
I promise I'm not going to sell the company and somebody else will inherit the data. So the goal of Tor is to decentralize that network. And that means that the security from Tor comes from having a lot of different relays all around the world so that it's hard to be in a position to see the right traffic flows to start doing the math to correlate them. And so that decentralization is great, but the internet keeps re-centralizing. We've
Right.
got Akamai and Cloudflare as like the main website providers. We've got Google and Apple as the only people who make phones. We've got 2 app stores. There are only like 7 undersea cables across important oceans. So that re-centralization of putting power back in the hands of the people in the middle keeps happening and is really dangerous for society.
And as we've heard here in Taiwan, those cables can get easily cut.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
They can get easily cut by accident, or they can get easily cut by
Purpose. On
a
purpose.
Chinese boat going to find a cable.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't it funny? Like, I think people understand the internet as sort of like
In
they
the
don't
cloud.
think in the cloud. They don't.
Yeah.
They're not thinking about like real cables and like real like internet exchange points. Like they
Yeah.
think about it
Yep.
as but it is dirt, and it is physical. So the concentration of assets, like technical assets, owned by a very limited number of companies, are they? So you're fighting it in a way through your own project because you're providing an alternative model.
Yep.
I mean, is it how do we address them directly? Like how this is give us some thoughts on, are they just going to keep centralizing and we're going to keep decentralizing, or what?
Yeah, I don't have any. I don't have
You
any
looked
great
like you had an
sentences for
answer
that
when
one.
you looked at me.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it's important to keep it to understand the power balances. So from Tor's perspective, there are a bunch of different reasons why people use Tor, and yes, there are bad people out there on the internet, and a lot of people look at it at first as you got to accept the bad users on the internet with the good users. It's a balance, but from Tor's perspective, the people who already have the power, they're doing great. They don't need tools like Tor as much as the minorities and other groups that are lacking power.
What's happening with the Tor exits? Are they the exit nodes? Are they like still part of the system? That's still like the model where you have the relays and the exit
Yes.
nodes?
So, So when you set up a relay, you can choose your exit policy that lets you configure for yourself which services people can reach from you.
Okay. All right. Good. Because what will happen often, or occasionally anyway, is that when the data pops out at the end at the exit node, then if it was something that was maybe unlawful or whatever, sometimes like the FBI would turn up at your door, and people who run exit nodes are like, well, I don't know what that traffic is because I'm just an exit node.
It's an opportunity to educate. So
an FBI agent.
One of my side hobbies
3 o'clock in the morning
is ending up at law enforcement conferences teaching the FBI about how the internet works from my perspective.
Oh, I remember.
Because you have to proactively go to them and help them understand what's going on. And at this point, most of the law enforcement groups in some countries understand Tor really well. And one of them explained it to me. Look, I've got 12 leads. If you can teach me which leads not to follow, I can do my job better. I don't have to hassle your volunteer relay operators. So,
on the whole, it's a collaboration between law enforcement and...
Well,
that is a rough word to use in this sense.
Well, I'm just wondering, you're saying that you are educating them.
I'm happy to teach everybody how the internet works and should work.
Okay.
Yeah.
And part of that is the community side of things. We need Egyptian activists using Tor, and we need FBI agents using Tor. You need the variety of types of people and why they care about privacy in order to have a proper privacy system. You can't have a cancer survivor's anonymity system because then everybody knows why you're using it.
True.
What about surveillance? Talk to us about that, because you have really been on the front line of, and you've seen it over these years, number of different changes, particularly under the Biden administration, executive orders, the banning of certain companies or listing companies on the entity list like NSO. Like, where do you think that battle is headed, and what are you doing about it?
Yeah, so there are, I guess, 2 different angles for how to think about that. A lot of the surveillance is happening in countries that are also working on internet censorship.
Yep.
So, and it's not just China and Vietnam and so on that are censoring. Australia censors the internet. England censors the internet. A growing number of countries are excited to do that. And when they're censoring, they're surveilling to know what you're looking at in order to decide whether you should be allowed to reach that website. So that censorship surveillance infrastructure comes hand in hand. And like when the US State Department or the Australian ministry goes to China and says, you're an authoritarian country because you're censoring the internet. And they say, look, I'm just keeping my citizens safe just like you do. Why are you picking on me? So I guess the other way of saying that is, if I can't get Australia to stop censoring, how am I going to get China and Vietnam and so on to realize they should stop censoring? And the other angle of that's frustrating, it's not like Myanmar builds its own censorship surveillance tools. They go to Palo Alto networks, they go to Palantir, they go to Cisco, they go to American and European companies and buy the oppression tools from them.
Wow.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that. Like, who's the worst offender?
Oh man, there are so many little companies that keep popping up. I mean,
of the big guns, the ones that you just mentioned, Palantir, Cisco.
Yeah, I'm not here to name names.
Just name names.
Yeah, well, I'm not here to name more names. Sorry, but yeah, it's part of the
prioritized names.
Yeah. So part of the problem is a lot of these companies are building these oppression tools for Boeing's internal network.
Yeah.
And they sell it to some American company in order to censor and surveil their employees at work, which maybe the employees signed up for that. I don't know. But it's the same product that they end up reselling. So years ago, there was a company called Blue Coat. They're out of business, so easy to... I think they got sold to somebody who got sold to somebody, and now like Intel owns them or something. But they were the ones operating the censorship surveillance infrastructure in Syria. And Syria is on the list of countries that U.S. companies aren't supposed to send stuff to. And so it was actually Anonymous, the folks with the cool masks, that found the Blue Coat logs on a misconfigured server in Syria. And they're like...
What, just now?
No, this was 15 years ago, 10 years.
Probably 10 years ago.
Yeah, it was a good while ago.
Yeah.
But it's an example of
I thought you meant after this. The Assad regime fell, they found this old computer with it.
Nope.
But so okay, well that's really concerning, because I mean, it's not that we don't know this. We know that like Western technology companies are like creating this stuff and selling it across borders, enabling a whole range of things: transnational repression, enabling surveillance of domestic populations, political oppositions, etc. So do you see like a technical, a legal, like are the courts able to be used? Are they thinking, advocates like you thinking about like a technical fix? Any jamming going on and any hacking going on to make these?
Yeah, it's not the problem, as you say. It's not just a technical problem, not just a legal problem, not just. So we need to tackle it in all angles. Part of the other challenge is, so when the U.S. builds routers, they have lawful intercept built in by law. And what lawful intercept means is if a judge tells you that you should plug into that port and spy on one of the users, then you get to do it. We sell that same router to someplace in Dubai. They have a different judge. The prince is like, hey, what's that port for? Oh, that's the lawful intercept port. Plug it in. So the fact that the technology can't adapt to different judicial mechanisms, it's just technology. And we see this even these days when England is calling for backdoors in encryption, and more countries are calling for backdoors. And technically, you can't have a system that's safe for this situation, but this other situation it's broken for. Like what happens when... So let's say Apple builds in the backdoor, which thank God they haven't done that yet. But let's say they do it. What happens when Saudi Arabia asks to use it? What do they do?
Or Trump.
Or Trump.
Yeah.
Yes.
What about, I mean, solutions here at RightsCon? Have you been working with people to come up with ideas to place some kind of guardrails around that?
Yeah, so a lot of the RightsCon world is about building and strengthening and maintaining the community of people who care about these topics. a lot of the conversations I've been having over the past couple of days certainly have some depressing sides, but it's also a support
But there's a
group.
lot of power
Yeah,
here.
it's a lot of people who are, we're here as actual human beings interacting together, remembering that we've been friends for a long time. We have overlapping interests. We care about the same things.
There is a positive vibration in this building. It's
There
not like people are thinking, well, we're screwed.
And how many nations? 150 different nations here
Around that.
represented, something around there.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so that is quite
a
solid coalition.
And we picked a country this year where those 150 people could get here.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? Isn't that? So give us one final little gem of the wisdom of Mr. Dingledine. Give us something which is gonna
change our world.
Tantalize. I know.
Oh
God. It's a lot. It's a load of pressure.
Yep.
It's a load of pressure.
So one of the tools that we've been working on lately is called Snowflake.
Oh.
It's a tool that, so in the censorship world, people use Tor to get around censorship, but then countries like Russia and Iran try to block Tor so that you can't use Tor to get around it. So then we come up with a way of unblocking Tor, and then they block that, and it goes back and forth. And one of the tools we've been working on lately is called Snowflake. It transforms your Tor traffic from something that looks kind of like Tor to something that looks like WebRTC, which is the protocol that video chat, Zoom, this thing might even be streamed over WebRTC right now. So that is allowing people in Russia and Iran to get through the firewall because it looks like they're doing a video chat conversation. And the other cool thing about Snowflake is
more Trojan horses.
Because it's WebRTC, browsers do WebRTC natively. So in the old model, you have to say, install Debian, apt install this, edit this text file, and so on. For Snowflake, install this browser extension. And now you're one of the hundreds of thousands of volunteers who are routing traffic from the censored region through your browser
and really just
into the
Netflix.
Tor network. And
I love it.
Whether it's Netflix or YouTube or learning what's happening at RightsCon, or watching one of the sessions here.
Which we would encourage listeners to do.
Yep. There are a lot of different reasons why people want to reach other parts of the internet.
Thank you so much, Roger. Thank you for everything that you've done and really for giving us the time and also just for continuing to have this energy and passion over many years. We wish you all the best.
Yeah, community is really important. Help us save the world.
Yeah. Okay.
We're in. Thank you.
Thank you.